Welcome to the Growth Whisperers Podcast, where everything we talk about every week is about building enduring great companies. Brad Giles, my partner down in Perth, Australia, and myself, Kevin Lawrence, up in Vancouver, Canada, get together weekly to talk about things that we're passionate about, things that we see happening in the companies that we work with or in the studies that we do ourselves, all things that help us to build enduring great companies. So, Brad, how you doing today?
Lovely. Very good indeed. And cold. It's 11 degrees Celsius today, which might not sound a lot for you in Vancouver, but here in warm Perth, Australia, 11 degrees is cold. How are you doing?
I bet we're doing it. Well, we're in our summertime, so we're warm and we're liking it. Even though we're not getting the best summer, it's all right. So, hey, before we jump into the topic today, just a reminder to our subscribers, if you haven't subscribed yet, just hit that subscribe button. And if you're happy to give it a rating, we would appreciate it. Of course, any feedback or ideas you can always send to Brad or myself. So Brad, what are we digging into today?
Today, how to structure presentations to ensure effective decision-making.
This one gets me. In so many meetings, people make these presentations, which are interesting, informative, but make it really hard to make an informed decision in that moment. And they just did some things differently. Man, it'd be much easier for them and for us too. So yeah, this is a topic we're both very passionate about. But let's kick off with our word of the day. What's yours?
Yeah, so what's on my mind in this regard is it's supply chain. We are just seeing so many people. It's the holidays, the school holidays for kids over here at the moment. There are so many people who are reporting lost baggage with airlines or cancelled flights.
Our airlines are a mess. Our airlines have actually two national airlines have cut back service as a way to cut back the number of flights to try to improve service.
Yeah.
How's that work?
Well, they're obviously struggling on so many levels. So yeah, that's the pointy end, but broader than that, it's just there are so many supply chain squeezes at the moment. What about yourself?
The phrase, "that's embarrassing." My daughter, who is at the stage where she wants to get a job and is out there in the world doing her own thing, keeps using that phrase. That's embarrassing for the things that she doesn't want to do that put her out of her comfort zone. So I would say that, as I be joking, I say, well, it's embarrassing. It's also embarrassing or uncomfortable not to get what you want. So there's the discomfort of the doing the thing. And then there's also the other discomfort of not getting the result that you want, and you've got to choose. And so joking with her about that, but a lot of times in companies, that's embarrassing, or which is code for that's uncomfortable. People avoid the hard things and then they make it harder for themselves. So it's really hard, or it's it's embarrassing, the supply chain issues that some people have. Hey, well, we'll weave that together pretty beautifully. All right, let's jump right in. So the idea here is that the distinction for today's show is the distinction between discussing or debating versus debating and deciding. So one of the companies that I've been doing some work with over the last couple of months, I talk about a debate deficit where companies don't get through their debates. And they said, Kevin, we don't have a debate deficit. Man, we have nonstop debates. We're always debating. We have a decision deficit. We don't know how to get the darn things across the line. So I thought, okay, I had to change my thinking from a debate deficit to a decision deficit in company. Yeah. And, when you don't make decisions, it constipates up the whole system and slows the whole thing down. And, and we're all guilty, including myself, sometimes dragging on decisions. Some decisions are hard, and the important ones should be hard. But it's really, today's show is that really, how do we make those important decisions better and faster? And the root of it is we waste a lot of time discussing things because we are not well prepared. We don't have the information we need for a well-disciplined, well thought out, effective decision. So then it takes way more time. People get frustrated. It creates other issues in the kind of that's the root of it. It's not for lack of actual, intelligence or knowledge or capability. It's often process, which we'll dig into today, or discipline at the core of it all.
It makes me think of Peter Drucker, who said that the job of a manager is to be efficient, and the job of an executive is to be
effective.
And if you're going to be effective, a part of your role is you've got to do presentations. You've got to do presentations that lead to decisions. Okay, so the effectiveness of those presentations is what matters. It's
and you got to teach your people to do the same.
Yeah,
you've got to teach your people how to make presentations to get the decisions that they believe are the right thing for the business. In many ways, it's a little bit of salespersonship 101. We're generally pretty good in selling, some people better than others, but internally selling it to get the decision, maybe we just need some sales training.
Yep.
So, hey, if you want to take a look back at some previous episodes, episode 58, Collective Intelligence, the key to leading a successful weekly meeting. Also, number 92, the meeting rhythm, the monthly leadership team meeting where we dig into some of this. And then finally, 114, the CEO only has one tool, which is meetings. And the root of this is creating, highly effective presentations, discussions, and decisions, which are a critical part of meetings. So that sets it up. So the first point we have here is, if you really want to make a presentation, have a successful outcome, know what the hell the question we're debating or the decision we're making. And I don't know how many times I'm in a room and people start making their presentation. I go, whoa. What's the outcome we're looking for here? Well, I want to give you an update. Well, I don't want to listen to it. I don't want one.
I want a decision.
I don't want updates. I want to know, what are you going to share with us so that we can make a decision? Period. Update presentation, send it to me and we'll review it if it's critical. So I don't want an update. I want them to help make decisions. Tell me why we're listening to you. And I wouldn't be that rude, but that's the intent.
Albert Einstein said that if I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the question. Now, it's not exactly the same, but what he's really saying is understand the question, get very clear on what is the outcome that we want to achieve. And
right.
Yeah.
And why is that important, Brad? Because, it takes us into our second point, which we'll get into in a minute, but it's about the information you need. Because depending on the question, you will need very different information. So to finish off point number one, know the question that we're discussing or the decision to make. And things like, who owns it? Whose decision is it to make in the end? Is it a group decision or it's one person's decision and we want just alignment or feedback? Second is it helps. People love or hate RACI, and we have it in a previous episode as well. But if you look at RACI, it'll tell you who's responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. And making sure that, we get later, but, are the people that should be consulted involved, or have they been involved in it? Yeah. And there's something out of your book, Made to Thrive, as well, Brad. You want to touch on that?
Yeah. So all team meetings are conducted with an agenda and data is available to effectively make decisions during meetings. So this is from my book, Made to Thrive, which is about the 5 roles of a CEO. So, you have to make sure that the meetings are run well. In the US military, they have a saying, which is any decision is better than no decision. So if you're in a combat situation, even if it's kind of the wrong decision, it's better than standing around getting shot at.
Yes. And it's sometimes easier in high pressure, high stakes.
Yeah.
It's these not urgent, but important decisions where we tend to get locked down. So look, you got to know what you're trying to accomplish. Start the conversation with that to set people's head in the right direction and make sure that the right people are involved. So number 2, we need a whole bunch of information to make this. Now, we need a whole bunch of information and we need it succinctly. We don't need 427 slides. Please don't send us 400, line spreadsheets, right? If you want an executive decision, you need to present information in an executive way. And it's like, why are we doing this? What are alternatives? What is our likelihood of success? Like what's the risks in this? And if we get it right, what's the real benefit? I love this when we talk about like implementing CRMs and Salesforce and stuff like that. And, it's funny. Some people think implementing Salesforce increases sales. I think it's almost hilarious. Now, if you have a problem in your company with tracking leads and losing leads, a CRM or something that manages leads that come in, lots of people use HubSpot and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It can to help track and better manage leads. But last I heard, sales management software doesn't make salespeople have more meetings and make more presentations. I don't know. Maybe it does. But I generally think people get lost in this stuff. So anyway, you can have these beautiful debates like, is it actually going to have the benefit that you think? Yeah, you got to think about dependencies, and then you got to back it up with numbers. Like, show us you got to show us some current data in the business that relates to this, and show us how it will be different. I.e., do you have a model, a financial model? And then the main thing, if you're going to bring a financial model, you better damn well have had a finance person go through it with you. If you're an operator, or you're an HR, or you're an IT or something else, and you want a decision, let your colleagues in finance validate your thinking with real math from the business. You'll have a way better chance. In some companies, it's actually required.
I saw a great example to this point that a CEO does. When he's running a meeting, he will send the slide deck. Like you said, 427 slides. It's not like that. It's, 10, 20, 30 slides.
Yep.
He'll send it in the days prior to their meeting, expecting that everyone will review it. And then his job during the meeting is to talk about the nuance of the slide or talk to the deck. So assuming that you've already read it, he's going to say, so this is why this chart matters, because in Cleveland, we're seeing this and that happen, and this is validating that. And so prepare.
I love the theory. In practice, people reading stuff before a meeting, unless it's a big strategic meeting and people are setting aside 4 hours to prepare, I don't ever count on it, because some of the most important people often don't read the damn stuff. If they have the discipline in the company, that's great. It's just, it's rare.
He has the discipline, and this is his weekly update, a part of collective intelligence, that type of thing. So,
hey, if it works, then that is an outstanding approach.
Yeah.
And I would never count on it.
But
so, which takes us to our next
part of the point. Prepare the information.
It is like he gets it prepared and shares it. I just find that generally getting people to read information before, unless it's a big meeting, it's just challenging. So which takes us, so the final thing on the day, what you need to know is basically, what's the ask? Clearly, how much you're asking for, over what period of time. We'll talk about it in a future episode. Like, is this a bullet or is this a cannonball? Like, is it proven? Is it not proven? But on to the next point, number 3 is that I call it 80-20 for me for decisions. The value is in the questions and the perspectives. That it's in the discussion. The mistake people make is they've got an hour slot to talk about the new IT infrastructure.
Yeah.
And then they present for 57 minutes, and there's only 3 minutes to discuss. You're not going to get a decision. I can guarantee it. So we help leaders in companies by saying, if there is an hour slot, 20% of that time maximum to present, which would be up to 15 minutes to present, 12 minutes. I aim for 10. And if you can't make your whole pitch in 10 minutes, you haven't thought it through well enough yet, or you don't know how to present to executives.
Yeah.
So generally, even if you have sent it in advance, which is ideal for sure, reviewing the key slides, or in some companies, just everybody reads it. Executives seem to think that them making a verbal presentation is the best thing to do. It's just everyone does a PowerPoint, and that's why they always take an hour. The other theory is write a 2-page document, and we'll just sit quietly and read it in the meeting, and then we'll discuss it. I think it takes more discipline to write a 2-page document than a PowerPoint, although they're just, they're not as pretty and you can't involve marketing.
But succinctly get the key points across. That is that contains
Yes.
the information required for a decision to be debated, A, and B, decided, and allocate. Your point is 80-20 rule.
Basically, if you
80%
got
of
an
the time.
hour, 10 minutes to present, please. And then let's discuss it. It's the discussion that will help us to get to the point of the debate. And if you're really smart, you should anticipate every single question. And if you're not that smart or experienced, your manager should prepare you. And you should. The best people that make presentations, they already know what we're going to ask, and they already have the questions. If you don't have that experience, run it by somebody else first. This is for the person preparing. It is super important because it's pretty predictable if you're an experienced leader. So the values in the questions, 80-20, present 20% of the time maximum, no matter what you're allotted, because you want to hear from people.
Yeah.
The next thing is, how do you actually, go ahead, Brad.
Set the table for debate. So how do you make sure that the debate will be healthy, that the debate won't go on? And as always happens, people bring up the same old things, the same old problems, time and time and time again. And you go down into these rabbit holes, or people have personal missions that they want to address. So allocate an amount of time. We're going to talk for we're going to debate this for 20 minutes or 40 minutes, whatever it is, and keep people to that time. We're now halfway through. We've now got 10 minutes remaining. We've still got to cover off those 3 points before we get to the decision.
Yeah, I even use a timer. If there is 40 minutes for discussion, I set a timer for 30, and I say, look, I'm setting the timer for 30. That lets us know that we have 10 minutes left. And I'm putting it on my phone so it's loud, so people can hear it. It's a guideline, or a guidepost to help us.
Yeah. So understand the rules for debate. Like, we don't do this and we don't do that. Like, it should be healthy debate. We say, how do we? Here's one thing that I've noticed. On Zoom meetings, they've got this raise hand function.
Yeah.
Most of the teams that I've been working with, we weren't using that. And one team, they just started using it, and it was so effective as facilitating it.
It is. Most of our teams, we got the habit of using it. The only problem is, as a facilitator, sometimes I'm so focused on what's going on, I would still miss the hands.
I know.
So, but then other people are calling it out. And the best thing on Zoom, you look on the right-hand side and they're put in order of when they came up, so you can easily manage and respect the order. But that raise the hand, once you got that going, it's beautiful. We often have it in our meetings, including myself, a facilitator. We have the hand raising, and it's interesting. The team all owns it. Again, I'll be facilitating a debate and I'm in it and we're working it. And someone's going to go, oh, Brendan, you're next. Oh, no. Sorry. Josephine was. So the team will help it, but it's the raising the hand is a simple, elegant way to not trample. And there's obviously facilitator schools to help that, but it's a great exercise for a team to come up with your rules for debate. Like, how do you do it? Like, what is, like one of my ones I hate is soldier gathering. Well, everybody thinks you're an idiot. Now, I can tell you I think you're an idiot, but when you start gathering other people's opinions to put more weight behind your, oh geez. Anyways, people have their own things. And one company I work with, they have phrases like, have you considered, instead of I think. Anyway, just however you do it, but yeah. The main thing, as you're saying there, Brad, is set yourself up for an effective debate. And one of the big things is, are the right people in the room?
Yes.
Because if there is someone who's a key part of this, if this decision is they're pitching a new IT system, but you don't have the user, like if it's a new retail POS, point of sale system, and the head of retail, right, or the people in that part of the business aren't there, you can't have a discussion.
No.
Because if the back of house IT people love it, but the front of house don't, it's a waste of time. So having the right people in the room to make the decision.
Yeah. And then we move to the next point, which is eventually it's time to decide.
5 minutes left. We're at 55 minutes of a 60-minute discussion.
Yeah, we've presented. You understand all of the data, the costs, whatever it might be. You understand the situation. We've debated. We've heard from different people's questions and perspectives. Okay, so now it's time to decide. The whole reason that we've come together is to make a decision. What are we going to do? Are we going to go for this, or are we not? Or is there a third option that we hadn't considered that has come up through the debate? But what are we going to? How do we land this, and who's accountable for it?
Yep. And often it'll come down to disagree and commit, right? Is that you're not going to, if you push them for consensus, it's going to take forever. And we'll all go around the room, and some decisions, if I'm in the room, it's like, okay, just, so the final decision is this, just show of hands. Okay. And just go around. Everyone's good. Someone's waffling their head, hey, Margarita, you still on the edge? She's like, yes. Are you willing to, although you don't fully agree, commit to this and wholeheartedly follow through? Yes. Okay, great. Let's go. Decision made.
Yep.
And then document it. Write the damn things down. In a lot of companies, we have a discipline of noting who, what, whens. We've actually tweaked it to decisions and actions. Actions is the who, what, whens, but also logging these decisions. And then it gets circulated to anyone that was missing at the meeting. So documenting those decisions, and if those notes aren't enough, sometimes there's other specific people that need to be informed. But at some point you got to call it. I think in Robert's Rules of Order, they call it calling the question, I think is what they call it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So the key point here is, hey, people make a lot of presentations. They burn up a lot of our time and don't get decisions. So they have to come back and present again. That's our fault. We need to set them up to win and not let them into the room until they're ready to win. By the way, I spent half an hour with an executive Friday afternoon. She wanted to present something. I know it's a very sensitive and challenging issue to get a decision in that company. So I asked to see it first. Well, we went through and I helped her with it because I was passionate about it. And we had to make some notable changes just on her last slide, which is her third to last slide, because she needed to have strong there wasn't a recommendation. It was an information share, which would have led to a nightmare. And so we helped to figure, but basically we had to restructure it so that it now can be effective with the two of us putting our brains together on it. So how do we be effective, get the decisions we want, and move ahead and not bore people to death and waste their time? So number one, be clear on what we're debating and the decision that we want made. What's the ask? Two, who's accountable and is going to prepare all that information so we can succinctly have it? And then three, in the meeting, 80% of the time is discussing it, to only up to 20% the presentation. Brad, you want to grab the last couple there?
Sure thing. Set the table for debate. So once we understand the question that we're answering, once we understand the values and the perspectives, then we've got to make sure that we're facilitating a debate, which is the bulk of the time, making sure that everyone is heard, making sure that all of the questions are answered, and that everyone understands what's being done using some of those things, such as timers, the rules for debate, raising hands that we mentioned before. And then finally get to the point where it is time to decide, call it out, explicitly say, now, how are we going to decide? How are we going to close this issue? Make sure that we walk away with a decision and with accountability. We mentioned RACI earlier. Maybe that's something to consider, but making sure that the decision is made and the accountabilities are set.
Yeah, one last point, Brad, you said I loved is making sure everyone's heard. One of my favorite techniques, and I forget, but is we always got to hear from the quiet ones because they're thinking while the rest of us are yapping, but is to go around the room. Hey, what's your perspective? And literally do a circle around the room to get the views.
Yeah.
As long as there's enough time. Awesome.
All right.
Want to wrap it up there, Brad?
I sure can. Let's
do it.
Let's do that. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed today's episode of the Growth Whisperers. You can find us on YouTube by searching the Growth Whisperers if you're interested in seeing our smiling faces. Also, we have interesting newsletters that we produce each week separate. Kevin's is on his website, and obviously mine is as well. Kevin's website is Kevin, no, it's not. It's lawrenceandco.com. And mine is evolutionpartners.com.au. Do hope that you've enjoyed today's episode, how to structure presentations to ensure effective decision-making. Have a great week.